Getting something into space is incredibly hard. To do so, you need to move very, very fast, at first straight up to leave the atmosphere, then sideways to begin a sort of circling around the Earth, still...
At tangential velocity. Have you guys, we talked about it yesterday, the spin launch. They're trying to spin something on the ground and launch into orbit. So cool.
Very, very fast. If you do that successfully, you can enter a low Earth orbit. And once in orbit, it's very hard to get out of orbit. Unless you have energy to spare, sort of locked in here, falling around the Earth forever. That's great for things we want to stay up, like space stations and satellites. And so we moved the majority of humanity's space infrastructure to this place, just a few hundred kilometers above the surface. Just high enough so that the atmosphere is so thin that orbiting things can stay up for centuries before air resistance can slow them enough to bring them back to Earth.
You could stay up there for quite a long time, as long as you're moving fast enough. Like, if you imagine how fast you need to shoot a cannonball, right, for it to enter orbit, you can actually work this out. It's a fun little problem you do in physics. Think about it. How quickly does this cannonball need to be moving for it to go around the Earth once?
But this is also the source of our deadly trap. Rockets are really metal cylinders that keep big piles of fuel in place. Whenever a portion of the fuel has been spent, the empty tanks are dropped to make the rocket lighter. Some parts crash down to Earth or burn up in the atmosphere. But most of the useless rockets...
Those are the things on SpaceX's launches that come down and land, which is pretty cool. The Falcon 9s, the boosters.
Parts stay up and begin to orbit the planet. After decades of space travel, low Earth orbit is a junkyard of spent boosters, broken satellites, and millions of pieces of shrapnel from missile tests and explosions. Right now, we know of around 2,600 defunct satellites, 10,000 objects bigger than a monitor, 20,000 as large as an apple, 500,000 pieces the size of a marble, and at least 100 million parts so small they can't be tracked.
It does sound like a lot. I understand that. It sounds like a lot. But people fail to realize just how big this place is. And obviously this is dangerous with these things flying around. And it is. But, you know, it's at all different altitudes, as well as how big, much bigger this sort of, you know, circumference is compared to even Earth's circumference. It's mighty. So people, you know, don't need to get their knickers in too much of a knot, really. You know, we could clean this up. There's things we could do.
This debris is moving at speeds of up to 30,000 kilometers per hour, circling Earth on crisscrossing orbits multiple times a day. Orbital speeds are so fast that being hit by debris the size of a pea is like being shot by a plasma gun. On impact, the debris vaporizes, releasing enough energy to punch holes straight through solid metal. So, we've covered the space around our planet with millions of deadly pieces of destruction. And we also put a $1 trillion global infrastructure network right in the danger zone. It performs critical duties essential to the modern world: global communication, GPS and navigation, collecting weather data, looking out for asteroids, and all manner of scientific discoveries. Things we would miss very much if they suddenly went away. If just one pea-sized bullet hits one of our 1,100 working satellites, it will be destroyed instantly. 3 or 4 satellites are already being destroyed this way every year. If satellites collide, they don't stop and fall out of the sky. It's more of a splash than a crash. Orbital
So it might sound crazy, but like one solution you could immediately think of is, it might sound crazy, but you might be able to actually, from the surface, observe all this space junk and get some kind of really powerful laser. It would have to be really powerful and it'd be extremely dangerous. But, and you could just track this thing with all kind of new methods we have, and just shoot it down, just heat it, vaporize it. But that sort of kind of laser would require a lot of energy, like a lot. But it could be done.
Speeds are so fast, solid pieces spray right through each other, transforming the 2 satellites into clouds of thousands of little things, still fast enough to destroy more satellites.
Maybe I should turn this into a company. Or build a big laser and we can shoot down all the space junk. That sounds fun.
Trigger the slowest and most destructive sort of domino effect, a collision cascade. Like a shotgun spray, each collision creates more bullets. What was once a single tiny target, very unlikely to hit anything, becomes a wall of destruction, hungry to make...
I think this is wishful thinking. I don't think we actually have to worry too much about this. I know people do simulations of this sort of thing, but simulations on this scale are extremely generalized, and yeah, just don't worry about this stuff too much.
more. As more and more satellites are destroyed, the destruction accelerates exponentially, eventually destroying everything parked in orbit. But space is very empty, so the first few collisions may take a long time. By the time we realize what's happening, it's too late. 1 year, 1 satellite is destroyed, and that's no big deal. The next year, 5. The year after, 50, until there's nothing left. And we may already be past the point of no return. Within 10 years, space around Earth may no longer be viable for long-term satellites or rockets. The worst-case scenario is horrifying. A debris field made of hundreds of millions of pieces, many too small to track, moving at 30,000 kilometers per hour. It would effectively create a deadly barrier around Earth, possibly too dangerous to cross. Dreams of moon bases, Mars colonies, or space travel at all may be set back centuries. And the loss of our space...
Yeah, I'm not worried about this at all. I mean that. I think we can solve this issue. I mean, it'll be really hard. I just mean compared to, say, like AGI or colonizing Mars. I think this is much more solvable
infrastructure
with current tech.
Send some of the technology we rely on daily back to the 1970s. But it might not be too late to clean up our mess. While the space industry has become better at avoiding space junk, it's still growing fast, and occasional weapon tests don't help. So there have been a couple of wild but also serious suggestions about how to quickly remove as much deadly space junk as possible without creating more in the process.
Here we go.
Lots of ideas are being thrown around, and some of the most seriously considered involve capture and return missions, which are being tested now. One method involves meeting a piece of junk in orbit with a small satellite loaded with a net. Once caught, a small rocket could be used to bring it down towards Earth. Targets too large for a net might be instead caught with a harpoon on a tether. Instead of firing a rocket, the cleaner would deploy a large sail to produce atmospheric drag and accelerate.
This is kind of like that. I can't remember the name of the movie, Wandering Earth or something. A massive Chinese, big budget movie that was on Netflix like a few years ago. I think it was called Wandering Earth. It was pretty cool, and they were doing stuff like this.
Orbital decay. And there are lots of other wild sci-fi sounding proposals too. Some might use giant electromagnets. These magnetic tugs work...
That sounds brilliant.
...by pushing on the magnetic components inside satellites that they use to...
How strong are we talking here? That could really... Who knows what that could do to our our Earth's magnetic, little bubble we live in. Because it's really not that strong.
...stabilize and orientate themselves in Earth's magnetic field. These may be safer and more reliable than nets and harpoons because they never have to make contact with the junk they're handling.
Okay, we're almost at the end of this video, so I just wanted to add it in a little bit because I'm creating this thing, if you haven't heard, called CalVPN, a post-quantum VPN that can literally protect you from quantum computers. It's going to be really important with how quickly quantum computers are developing. They're already here. It's the powerful ones that are going to be a problem in the future. Maybe even in about 3 years is my prediction. So come get it. I made this, and if you want to support my YouTube channel, it would mean the world to me.
No risk of accidentally breaking up their target into more junk. As for the tiniest bits of junk, lasers might be the key to vaporizing them entirely. Satellites with lasers wouldn't need to visit their target. They can shoot them from far away. Large objects can't exactly be shot down, but lasers can be used to ablate them or burn tiny amounts of material off the side to push the junk to a safer orbit.
That's another good option, actually. Rather than vaporizing it, which would take a lot of energy, you could actually just move it.
Technology we used in the end, we better start doing something soon. Before 100 million bullets become 1 trillion and the trap is set.
Yeah, we tend to only focus on problems when it's a little bit too late, hey?
If we don't act, our adventure in space might end before it's even begun.
Well, we've already started not experimenting with this, but with lasers in space. So Starlink actually have this capability. They actually have lasers in space now to sort of link them up and stuff. So there you go. That could be the early sort of bedrock for trying to get these sorts of lasers in space. Maybe you could create lasers powerful enough to move the stuff away that could be on satellites themselves. To vaporize, I imagine you're going to have to put them on the ground. So it just sounds like a fun thing to do, to be honest. Another awesome video by Physicist. Always love his videos. He is, like I've said before, he should win the Nobel Prize in science communication, in my opinion.